The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty village cemetery of Kodogu. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the rustling of dry leaves and the distant hum of cicadas. At the far corner of the graveyard, where two freshly dug mounds of earth lay side by side, a child knelt, her small body trembling with grief. Her name was Awa, just 9 years old. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her cheeks streaked with dirt and tears. She clutched a tiny wooden necklace that once belonged to her mother, holding it as if it were the last thread tying her to the family she had lost. Her parents had died only days before, taken by an illness that swept through their village with merciless speed. With no relatives nearby and no home to return to, Awa wandered to the graves each morning and stayed until nightfall, whispering her pain into the silence. "Why did you leave me?" she sobbed, pressing her forehead against the earth. "Why didn't you take me too? I have no one now. No one." Passers-by noticed her, but moved on quickly. Some pitied her, but were too burdened with their own struggles to intervene. Others feared getting involved. And so, in a world bustling with life, Awa was utterly alone, until fate brought a stranger down that very road. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader of Burkina Faso, had been visiting nearby villages to listen to the concerns of farmers and youth. On his way back, his convoy slowed near the cemetery. Ibrahim noticed something unusual, a small figure kneeling by the graves, her frail shoulders shaking. He signaled for the vehicles to stop. Stepping out, dressed simply in his fatigues, he walked slowly toward the child. At first, Awa didn't hear him. Her cries drowned out everything else. But when the shadow of a tall man fell across the graves, she looked up, startled. Her eyes met his, red and swollen, filled with despair. Ibrahim's heart clenched. "What troubles you, my child?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her. She wiped her face with the back of her dusty hand, but said nothing. Her lips trembled as if words had lost all meaning. Finally, in a broken whisper, she managed, "They're gone. My father and mother. I have no one left." For a moment, Ibrahim was silent. He looked at the two mounds of earth and then back at the little girl. The pain in her voice pierced him deeper than any wound from the battlefield. Ibrahim placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "You are not alone, Awa," he said softly. "From today, you are my daughter." The words made her blink in disbelief. She had expected indifference, maybe pity, but not this. "Come with me," he continued. "You will not sleep on the ground. You will not cry in hunger. Your parents are gone, but I promise you, I will carry their love for you in my heart." Tears flowed anew down Awa's cheeks, not of despair this time, but of fragile hope. She hesitated, then slowly placed her tiny hand in his. In that single gesture, her life shifted. Ibrahim led Awa out of the cemetery and into his vehicle. They drove to a nearby home where a simple meal of rice and sauce awaited her. When the steaming plate was set before her, her eyes widened. She hadn't eaten properly in days. But before she picked up a spoon, she glanced nervously at Ibrahim. He gave her an encouraging nod. "Eat, my daughter," he said. "Fill your stomach. You need strength." Each bite tasted like life itself returning to her body. As she ate, Ibrahim quietly observed, his thoughts heavy. This child was but one among thousands, orphans, abandoned, forgotten. Yet fate had placed her in his path. "This is why we must build a new future," he thought, "so no child ever has to cry alone beside a grave." That night, Ibrahim brought Awa to a safe shelter where children without families were cared for. The staff greeted her warmly, but she clung tightly to Ibrahim's hand, afraid to let go. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked in a trembling voice. Ibrahim knelt once again, looking into her eyes. "Not just tomorrow, my daughter. Every time you need me, I will come, I promise." For the first time in many nights, Awa slept peacefully. Her dreams were no longer haunted by loss, but gently touched by the hope of belonging. News of Ibrahim's encounter with the orphan girl spread quickly across Burkina Faso. People spoke of their leader who stopped his convoy to kneel beside a grieving child, who called her daughter and gave her back her dignity. It wasn't just a story of charity. It was a lesson. Days later, in a public address, Ibrahim shared Awa's story with the nation. "My people," he said, his voice steady yet emotional. "Yesterday, I found a little girl crying beside her parents' grave. She thought she was alone in this world, but no child of Burkina Faso should ever feel abandoned. She is now my daughter, and in her, I see the face of every orphan, every child in need." The words struck deep. Communities across the country began mobilizing. Neighbors taking in children, youth groups organizing food drives, women's associations creating safe spaces for the vulnerable. Awa's story had awakened the nation's compassion. Weeks turned into months, and Awa's life transformed. She started school, her hands now holding pencils instead of clutching her chest in grief. She laughed again, her eyes bright like the sun breaking through after a storm. Every time Ibrahim visited, she would run to him, calling out, "Papa," and he would lift her into his arms, his face breaking into a rare smile. One evening, as she proudly showed him her schoolbook filled with neat handwriting, he felt a surge of pride. "You are strong, my daughter," he said, kissing her forehead. "Your parents would be proud, and I am proud too." Awa's small face lit up. "I will study hard, Papa. One day I will help children who have no one, just like you helped me." And in that promise, Ibrahim saw the seed of a brighter future, one that would grow from compassion, not power. The image of a little girl crying beside her parents' grave could have been just another forgotten moment in the endless suffering of poverty. But when Ibrahim stopped, knelt, and took her hand, it became something else, a story of hope, a testament that true leadership begins with humanity. For Awa, that day rewrote her destiny. She found not only food, shelter, and education, but a father's love in the heart of a leader. And for the people of Burkina Faso, her story was a reminder that a nation is healed not by grand speeches or towering monuments, but by simple acts of compassion. Sometimes, saving the future of a country begins with saving one child, kneeling beside a grave, wiping away tears, and whispering, "You are not alone anymore." One leader, one promise, and one orphan's life was forever changed. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Share it with the world, inspire compassion, and remind everyone, no child should ever feel alone. Subscribe for more real, emotional stories that the world needs to hear. And remember, kindness is stronger than power.